Greetings. With this video, we begin a series of lessons about automated testing of applications in C#. Let's start with the statement. We need to implement a method that takes a string as input and returns it in reverse order. It should be noted that for many years I've been using Rider from JetBrains as a development environment, and for those of you who are accustomed to Visual Studio, the interface may look unfamiliar. However, we will not see significant differences from VS within the framework of the functionality we're interested in. And you'll not face any problem with the repetition of my actions in other development environment. So, we already have a string reversing project, an empty class library on .NET 5. However, you on your part can implement the described approach both within a console application and in the MVC framework even, and using other versions of .NET. Anyway, we will only be interested in two classes, and the application will not need to be launched at all. We can test the code without it. Let's create another project, which will be responsible for testing. Let's call it the same as the main one, string reversing, but with the addition of the tests postfix, which is the industry standard. Thus, on the one hand, you can always identify testing projects in the application at a glance. On the other hand, you visually connect the tested and testing projects. The default class obviously doesn't interest us. Let's return to the main project and create a string reverser class, which will be responsible for implementing the required functionality. The string reverse method, without any fantasy, a string for input, a string for output. At the moment we don't care about its content, and therefore we will simply return an empty string so that our code compiles without errors. In the testing project in turn, we will create a mirror class with the same name and again with the tests postfix. The logic is the same here. Each test class by its name points to the tested functional code. Moreover, the position of the testing classes in the project must match the position of the tested ones. So if the string reverser class lay inside some folders at the third nesting level, for example, then in the string reversing tests project, we would reproduce the same structure by creating the appropriate folders. Before we start writing the test, let's add a few necessary libraries to the project. When implementing a full-fledged project, we will install about 8 additional libraries. However, in this case, we will manage with only 3. You can check out the full list at the link in the description. Let's start with XUnit, the basic testing engine. Please note that all libraries are installed exclusively in the tests project. When providing automated testing, we should in no case interfere with the functional code and change it to suit the tests. Further, even if you, like me, use Rider for development, probably many of your colleagues use Visual Studio, and in order to enable them to run the tests we have written, you need to add a runner for VS. Well, the last one will be the Test SDK from Microsoft, without which we won't be able to run anything in any environment. Yeah, we are done with the libraries and now we can start writing the test. In order to test the string reverser, we obviously need to have a string reverser instance. So let's create the appropriate field. String reversing tests doesn't have a reference to string reversing. Let's add it. Yep. And we initialize the reverser field in the constructor. At the moment this is not essential, but this approach is mandatory. All test dependencies must be defined in the class constructor. We will talk about why this is important in subsequent videos, or you can search for information using the link in the description. Well, let's move to the test. Visually, the test isn't different from the regular sharp method, except for the fact of theory attribute. Let's call our method reverse success. The name of the test traditionally should begin with the name of the method being tested. Yep, the same logic of reflecting the functional code. And have some explanation about the purpose of the test in the second part. In this case, we just want to make sure that the code works, and therefore indicate this with the word success. Well, we don't need AutoMock here yet. Let's pull fact from XUnit. Okay, the shell is ready. A few words about the structure of the test. Any test consists of three elements: preparing data, calling the method under the test, and checking the result. At the preparation stage, we will create an input string which we will pass to the reverse method. There can be any text inside, well, for example, text. At the same stage, we will decide what we expect to receive as a result of processing. Let's create a variable expected containing the reversed string. Okay, preparations are over. Time to call our test subject. Variable result, reverse input as parameter. If our method works, then the result should be equal to expected. This is what we will check in the last step. Assert true, a basic construct that checks that a given expression is true. If the result of our comparison is incorrect, an exception will be thrown and the test will turn red. That's it. The test is ready. It remains to run it. Ctrl+TL for rider or Ctrl+TA for VS. However, if you wish, you can poke the mouse into the menus. As expected, the test failed. We never implemented any functionality in the string reverse method. For the purity of the experiment and in order to not to leave our test threateningly red, let's write something to make the method work correctly. Let it be chararai maybe. Of course, you can implement your own version through new string or loops. Just experiment on your own. Now we are only interested in passing the test. Great. Let's run the test again. And yeah, the green color indicates that our method works as required by the statement. From now on, we call freely experiment with our code, knowing exactly its status, without having to run the entire application and manually testing, which is exactly what we wanted to. If you have any questions or difficulties, leave comments, and that's it. Thank you for the attention.